Hello, you're welcome. It's Henry the Computer Guy, and I wanted to take you through the procedure of how you can use a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. But before we do it practically, let's first take a second and talk about the overview of what a pivot table is. So when you have a lot of data, it can sometimes be difficult to analyze the whole of that information in your worksheet. So pivot tables can make your worksheet more manageable by summarizing the data and even allowing you to actually manipulate that data in the different ways. So if you're to define a pivot table, it is that program tool that allows you to reorganize and summarize the selected columns and rows of data in a worksheet or in spreadsheet. So it can help us to summarize everything. In this video, you'll learn how to use a pivot table. So now, down here, I've already created a file that is having some of the information that we are going to be using. Let's look at it. It has the salespersons, it has the region, the account, the order amount, and the month. And in this case, let's say if you have a burning question we want to answer. For example, what is the amount sold by each salesperson? So answering this question could be time consuming and difficult because each of the salespersons appear on multiple rows. For example, you see this one is in one, let's say two, we have this one, we have this one. Let's look at this, we have this, we have this, we have this. So this would be time consuming and difficult because these people or these salespersons appear on multiple rows. But we could still use what we call the subtotal command to help us find the total for each salesperson. But we would still have a lot of data to work with. That means that this pushes us to what we call using of the pivot table. And now, if you want to learn how to use a pivot table, you have to know some of the things. And now we have our information that we are actually going to be using. First of all, you have to select the table or the cells, including the column headers that is containing the information you want to use. And in our case, we have the headers as this, and the information is going to up to down to 40. So what we are going to do is to select the whole of it. And remember, it is in our table. So we are going to say Control A such that our information is selected. That is the first step. Then on your ribbon, you're going to go and look for what we call the Insert tab. When you go to the Insert tab, you'll click what we call the pivot table. So after clicking the pivot table, the Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear. So it will allow you to choose your settings and then afterwards you press OK. So in our example here, we will use the table 1 as our source data and place a pivot table on a new worksheet. That means that a blank pivot table and the field list will appear on a new worksheet. And once we have created that one, then we can be able to summarize our information the way we feel we want. So we are going to be using table 1 as it is selected. Then we shall put our pivot table on a new sheet. Let's press OK and see what it tells us. Yeah, actually it has brought the pivot table and even the fields aside here. So in the pivot table field list, you're going to only check the boxes that actually have the fields that you want to add. And in our example, we want to know the total amount sold by each salesperson. So we shall check the salesperson and the order amount. Let's click on them and see. You can click on that one. It actually displays the information for the salesperson. Then actually we'll also look for what we call the order amount. It is actually bringing it here. And even it gives us the grand total down here. So the selected fields will be added to one of the 4 areas below the field list. And in our example, the salesperson field has been added and to the row area. You're looking at it here. The sales has been added to the row area, and the order amount has been added to the value section. Remember, we have 4 of them. We have the column, we have the values, we have the rows, and the filter. We are going to be looking at what each of them works or what it does. So finally, if you look at the information here, each salesperson is represented with a what? With a respective order amount. And afterwards, they even calculated the grand total for all those salespersons. That is how actually we can use a pivot table. So just like any normal spreadsheet data, you can as well use the data in the pivot table to, let's say, you can sort it and even filter it depending on what you want. So if you come to the home tab here, you can come and select, let's say, the information here. If you highlight it, you can select it and come and either sort it or filter it in a way that suits your, let's say, suits your question. Now, what you have to know is that one of the best things about pivot tables is that they can quickly pivot or rearrange or organize your data, allowing you to look at your data or worksheet in different ways. You can even come with other trends that you didn't even know. That is what we call a pivot table. This was our data, but we have used it to answer the question that we were having, and it has actually indicated it there. Are we together? Let's go back and let's say look for what we can add there. For example, if at all we wanted to make any other changes, for example, we want to change some of, let's say we want to remove this one. So if you want to remove this one or any field in your information or in your pivot table, you can just drag it and put it just aside. It will remove that information. Let's assume that we want to put here month. We can drag and put the month here. You see, it goes on changing the information depending on the user's need. So now you're actually seeing that we have the label for the, let's say, for the month and the sum of the orders. So now, assuming that you also wanted to add some columns to your pivot table, that will actually be very easy. You're going to come to the checkboxes here. Let's say you need to select the region. You can select the region and drag it to the columns. That means that whenever you want to add more columns, you can add them to the column area. You're seeing that information, it is now changing. So the pivot table can help you to summarize any information that you want to come up with, or it can help you to answer any burning question that you have. And now, if you wanted to filter some information, let's say basing on the salesperson, that means that we shall use the filter section. Assuming that we want to filter this information basing on the salesperson, we would hold it, then come and drag it and put it in the filter section. So when you put it in the filter section, it will bring that information and it allows you to make some, let's say, you don't want to see some of the information there, or you want to change some of the information. Sometimes you may be in need of, let's say, to focus on just a certain section of your data. So that means that you can still have to filter that data. Let's see how we can filter it. So if we add it here, it will come up here and we can click on it, then we make any changes. So we can first of all select all. Then we can go removing some of the people that we actually don't want. So we are basing on the salesperson, then we can actually remove or uncheck those people that we don't want to use. Or we can again select the whole of it like that. So after that, you say okay. So it will make your information, or it will filter your information basing on only the what? The salespersons. It is very, very simple. Now, let's come back to our data. And we make some of the changes. We can also actually make charts out of our pivot table by selecting the information that we need and we create a chart. For example, we have this information that we can select this information and first of all make a chart out of it. We can come and look for a chart we need to use. For example, I need to use the bars. Then I will come and select the bars that I want to use into my information. So it is actually similar to the way we always do the normal data in the worksheet. So it can create the charts, it can also filter, it can sort the data depending on what question that you have. So that is how we can use a pivot table to summarize and manage or manipulate our data. And if you feel that this video has been helpful to you, please help me and add a subscription button, or click on the subscribe button below and share the link to all those people who need this content. So it's been Henry the Computer Guy. Thank you for watching. I sign out. Bye bye.